kicked it off and made it what it is today. That's what we're going to get into today. And like before we even get going, first of all, I'm going to break down some stuff from my lineage. That's why I'm rocking my actual, coach's jersey, as we say. This is our mascot. My name is Coach Eric Bradley, and this is
Hey guys, Stacy over here tuning
and
in with you.
absolutely. So what we're
Hmm.
going to do is get into the origin of boxing, my tie to one of the greatest fighters who ever lived, and kind of how all you styles of boxing originate and who's really responsible for starting some of the most prolific styles of boxing in history. So I think
Yeah.
this conversation will be absolutely awesome. So with that being said, Stacey's going to ask me
Yeah.
some questions, and like I said, it's a great time in boxing right now. And what we want to do is just make sure that we give our guys the best conversations possible. So let's get
Yeah.
into it.
All right. Well, thanks for teeing it up. I know because of a lot of the traction that we have on social media and a lot of your skills teaching, we get a ton of inquiries about the PeekABoo. And we all know it's the most coveted offensive style. And
Hmm.
so, what I'd like to hear from you today, and our audience to hear as well, is how did the PeekABoo originate? If they have
Good.
not heard you tell this story before, it's one you don't want to miss.
You're right. It is definitely one you don't want to miss. So here's how the peekaboo began. It didn't begin as the peekaboo. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So what there most people don't realize that there's a science behind arm blocking and peeping between gloves and arms. So it first originated from what we call the turtle shell. And that was Archie Moore's deal. Archie Moore invented the turtle shell, and later to be use the same concept to go into the peekaboo, right? And they always chew me out about it. I'm one of the brain trusts for the Moore family, so I have
Mm-hmm.
different insight to you guys, and so I'll give you some of that insight. They always tear into me saying that what Mike Tyson them doing is not the peekaboo because the peekaboo is about peeping between the forearms. And that's where it originated from. And I don't care what you say, I'm not arguing with that. That's my extended family. And go ahead.
No, I was about to say that's a very distinct difference. If someone is newer to the game or even been in it a while, we all, especially if you've been around the Tyson era,
Yeah.
and if you look up PeekABoo, 9 times out of 10, his name is going to come up, and that you see a totally different style than what you're explaining that Archie Moore presented. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think for you sharing that with everybody is great. So if you say that is how it originated and where it originated,
Yeah.
and was the first beginning stages of it, then who mastered it as we look at it as a
Okay.
whole, as a style?
And that's the most beautiful thing because as if you think about when you say someone mastered it, we know, another one of the predecessors to my lineage is George Benton.
Mm-hmm.
George Benton was a master of the Philly shell. Floyd mastered marketing the Philly shell,
That's right.
right? Because how could you master something that is not even named after you? So that's why you hear Floyd saying it's the Mayweather defense. But it's just arm blocks,
Mm-hmm.
understanding how to use your access points to defend and deflect shots. And when you're able to do that, what you're going to find is that you'll be able to put your opposition's hand in their pocket because when you can block someone from throwing a jab, you can throw a jab, you can take a jab, you can catch it in your hand, and then you can just roll the right hand. That right hand, boom, all you got to do is lift that shoulder, tuck your chin, make sure you're keeping your eyes on the prize. And the number one technique that most people don't talk about is the rubber necking effect. And the rubber
Mm-hmm.
neck is when you see like Bernard Hopkins and them, but they take a punch and they roll with it. And so they take the blunt force of the punch away from it. So even if you're in the shell, even if you're in the peekaboo, you learn how to use rubberneck tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And what that'll do is it'll protect you from locking down so hard that punches don't hurt. So you kind of roll with it. And I explained that in one of my videos, and James Tony
Yeah.
commented, "You know what you're talking about." But James didn't know that I'm from the school of where that was invented way back. And so we talking George Benton,
Mhm.
Archie Moore, the best name to ever come out of boxing before any of the coaches got names was Dick Sadler, who was Archie Moore's coach. Nobody knows about those coaches back then, and if you do, you serious about it, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
who made it, who mastered it is
Mm.
Archie Moore because he invented the shit.
Yeah.
But who made it famous was Mike Tyson because he made it dynamic. And James Tony gave those guys all of the accolades.
Mhm.
Like Ezzard Charles was James Tony's favorite because of how he was swift with what he did, but he could knock you out the box too. So
Yeah.
yeah, but then man, that boxing is just such a beautiful thing. Check in, let me know where you checking at, watching from, chat. What city you representing? Do you watch boxing, and do you have a boxing gym? Drop it in the comment box. Let me holler at your boy.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Philly shell briefly. Let's take a minute and dive a little bit deeper into that
Mm-hmm.
because that is another. These styles are so popular. People, like you just said, Mayweather marketed the Philly shell. So for a lot of people, they think of using Philly shell as a defense. And one of the most interesting components and outcomes of your teaching is actually being able to fight out of the shell.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk a little bit more about that so people can hear what
It's
that's
a
about.
great that's a great question. So when you're talking about the Philly shell, everybody understands that the Philly shell, when you see it, you're in a cage. James Tony was in a cage. Bernard Hopkins was in a cage. George Bent was in a cage. Archie Moore put himself in a cage. But it's just like the comedy
Mm.
acts of the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and on back. They were prolifically skilled with a technique, but they used curse words. In the early 2000s, it's like comedians came around and got lazy, and all they were using was the curse words. They
Mhm.
didn't actually understand the science behind being a comedian. Just like when these fighters in the era came in, they didn't understand that the Philly shell isn't just about defense. It was about offense because if you watch Archie Moore, he was prolific with throwing punches. If you look at George Benton, he came
Mhm.
out of his shell like a cannon. And if you look at James Tony, young James Tony, the exact same thing. He would come out of his shell like a cannon. Boom, he's throwing 12. Even Roy Jones alluded to that. See, because when you're in the box and you're defensively responsible, more like Money Mayweather, not Pretty Boy Floyd, but Money Mayweather. He was very conservative, but there were a multitude of reasons. I would never take that away from Floyd. It's because of his hands. He had to protect his hands. He was fighting bigger guys as Money Mayweather. He wasn't a natural 147, and he definitely wasn't a 154 pounder. He's almost
Mhm.
50 years old now, and he's still not a good 160 pounds. So you can imagine what he was 15 years ago. So the
Mhm.
key is understanding why you had to fight like that. These guys are coming down from 180 when you're fighting at welterweight. Terrence Crawford just told you he was 186 before training camp. So when you fight in the shell, it's because you're defensively minded because you haven't been groomed to throw punches out of the
Mhm.
shell. When we teach fighters from the school that I'm from, this is the school of George Benton, the real killers, the Archie Moores, the guys who threw offense, right? I sat on the phone hours and hours and hours with my sister-in-law and talked about unique things that Pops did. You know what I'm saying? Like we call him
Mhm.
Pops because that's who he was. To me, Godfather wise, I studied him my entire life and then got brought into the family by the daughter. Just so everybody's clear, J. Marie. And I'm acting role as a big brother now. And we've sat on the phone hundreds of hours and talked about just the unique methods that he used even what he ate
Yeah.
for weight loss. So we'll get into
We'll
that on
get
one of
into
the
that in a minute.
questions. But
Mhm.
what these guys don't understand today is when they think about the Philly shell, they think about this, the corners behind the shoulder, elbow down, arm across the waist, hand up here on the cell phone, pop, pop, pop. But the shell isn't about that. It's about you can stop all the defense, but you're offensively responsible. But what happened is guys got too technical and then they became robotic with it. And so when you see or hear the word and phrase or the term Philly shell, you think of a defensive fighter, just a counterpuncher. But we teach it to get into your ass, not to
Mhm.
hide from that ass. And so that's what you got to remember. And that's one of the techniques that we teach when we're in our program. And the only reason I made it very clear to the fighters is that you can't get into the do the shell if you can't fight inside of a box. So we have this box that they get inside of, and they have to go into it and build the density of their bones up
Mhm.
with these deflects and throwing so they don't get what we call fight go into fight or flight mode when the real fight is happening. Because if you don't fight for real, you'll be in that shell shelled up. But what we want to do is get in your ass. We don't want to hide from you. We want all the smoke. So
Yeah.
that was a good
Well,
question.
good. Well, so I got to shake it up a little bit. So here's where I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. So talk to me about what is a hybrid then?
Boom.
Hybrid fighter.
Okay, so we've talked about the PeekABoo. We talked about the Philly shell. See what most people think we got people who've enrolled in our hybrid school online, right? And we have the
Mhm.
oldest fight school online, period, 15 years. We're approaching 15 years. So we've been online since the internet has offered us to do it. And the reason why is because we wanted to teach people about what's going on when it comes down to fighting. So a hybrid isn't about the styles. A hybrid fighter is a fighter that has great offense. He
Mhm.
knows how to press the offense, and he has great defense too. He knows how to be defensively responsible in the midst of throwing hands. He's
Mhm.
not looking to hide, he's looking for the smoke. So that is a hybrid, a compilation of two
Mhm.
components. And this makes up the ultimate fight machine. And therefore, there's a method. You got to train these guys to have both. Because why wouldn't every fighter want both?
I have no idea because that would
Every,
make for an exciting fight.
God
That's
forbid, we have exciting fights. You know what I'm saying? They do want it, but they just don't understand the process. So what we do is teach them how to actually train their defense, all five layers of defense. Because the reason why you're having so much trouble learning boxing is because boxing is broken down into
Mm.
4 layers. And when you
Mhm.
start understanding how to break those layers down and train, that's when you start to master the science and the skill set of boxing. So, 5 layers of defense, and their immense training levels when you're developing the athlete, because he can be an amateur and he can look like he's going to be a good pro. But pro is a different beast. But if you
Totally
train
different.
in a hybrid training program, what that does is it gives you the repetition, the hard wiring to really fight in the pocket, in the paint, which
Mhm.
most guys don't understand how to do that. They think they do. Like there are a lot of fighters today who think they can really fight, but they're about to meet fighters that can really fight. I can name them, but it don't matter because they're gonna meet their fate anyway. Because they think they can fight. They've said they can fight. They think they can fight, but the reality is, we always had guys that come into our gym who thought they can fight. But we were fighting on ESPN. We were fighting on HBO. We were fighting on Showtime. We was fighting. And when they come in there talking about they could fight, let's see if you can fight. Sign this waiver because what's gonna happen in that ring gonna stay in that ring. And they mostly will always learn that they can't fight like they think they can fight, not at this level. So that's the reality of it. And knowing how to fight in a system of fighting, you got to know how to be trained in that system. And a lot of trainers don't have access to real professors. I have access to 4 professors. man,
Yes.
that's just not a common thing. So I got hit by a lightning bolt when it comes down to that. So I was lucky.
Sweet.
Yep.
Nice.
So
All right.
on
So
to the next.
on.
Anybody got questions? Leave them down below. And if I don't get to them during this stream, no matter what you do, just follow for more. Make sure you hit that notification bell because Staci's going to have a great treat for all of you guys towards the end of the show, which will be
Yeah.
within the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, because we're kind of getting there. You were hinted a moment ago of how the legends ate.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about it because this is fun.
Tricky. A lot of you guys don't realize that you had to do what you had to do to make weight back then. And I said most welterweights came down from 185, some of them 190 to fight at 147. This has been since they stopped allowing you to weigh in the day of, and now you get 24 hours to rehydrate up, 30 hours to rehydrate.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they've learned to do this. So one of the methods that the great old mongoose did was he used to allow his body to go through this process using sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut juice.
Okay, and just taking that in, and lo and behold, it worked. And there was a lot of people don't understand the science of dieting, right? But when they had to fight the weight that day they weighed in. And so that's a luxury now. Now you can weigh in and shit. It don't even matter. Like you can weigh in, you got 30 hours. Like you weigh in at 1 p.m. the day before, you don't fight until 10, 11 p.m. You rehydrating up for 40 hours almost. You know what I'm saying? Like that ain't even right that you can rehydrate for that long. So when those dudes were able to do it, they learned how to do different tactics. And I'll never forget what, Jay Marie told me that her dad said when he fought Yvonne Durrell. You want to see the greatest fight in history? Pull up Archie Moore versus Yvonne Durrell. That's the greatest battle. You thought you saw a fight. When you watch Gotti Ward, you thought you saw a fight. When you saw Eric Morales versus El Terrible and Barrera, you thought you saw a war. You haven't seen a fight. You thought when Ali Frazier fought that was a war. You haven't seen a war. Go watch Archie Moore versus Yvonne Durrell, right? That's a war.
Yeah, that's one everybody should watch.
Yep.
Without a doubt. Well, you want to get on to a little bit of the yummy food, seeing how you were talking about.
But one of the things that I wanted to share with everybody is that we were supposed to do a steak meal plan. Staci was going to show you exactly, because the Tuesdays is the day we talk about meal planning, right? For athletes, when you're trying to be an athlete and stuff. And so we decided that you wanted to do this, you got to do it right. So we have a meal plan that we used, and we had it doctored up about maybe almost 18 years ago, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, it stood the test of time because it's relevant today still, because the method is wise. And we used it through training camps, all kinds, like hundreds of people have benefited from this thing. Thousands, not hundreds, sorry. But what makes it so unique is that there are good recipes in there, like some good whole foods, because that's her thing. She knows that stuff. Like when it comes down to food, micronutrients and everything, like there's nobody better and stuff. So we were going to do that. So what we're going to do is get into,
maybe talk about steak a little bit.
Let's talk about it. Give them a little bit of insight, because I like to know, and I'm sure some of you guys want to know how to eat better. Well, this is your person. So give them a couple of tips or things of what you do, how you go about some stuff.
Yeah, well, I'll stay in the same vein that we've kind of, hinted about yesterday and talking about steak. It is personally my go-to source for protein. Number one, especially when you're looking at athletes as a whole, barring there are no allergies, that, red meat is unique in the fact that it has heme iron in it. And so what the heck does that mean? All you need to know is it helps with the oxygen flow in your body. So if you're an athlete or if you're a fighter, that oxygen that you need for your endurance is tremendous. You also, creatine is really big out there. There's a lot of conversations about creatine. Red meat has it naturally. And so that will also help with your muscle development and your endurance as well as your recovery, because it's, you want to be able to perform, but you also want to be able to recover. And we're all about, Coach alluded to this a moment ago, it's all about eating real food, pushing the boxes away, the bags, all that sort of junk, and give yourself permission to make your life simple and eat real food. And so, a great steak is a way that it's hard to beat. When you look at all the building blocks, it has a perfect combination, it has all the 9 essential amino acids in it, and it's a perfect combination of protein and fat. And so that's just going to fuel the body, help you recover, and it'll keep you satiated. So that's something that's super important. And in my opinion, you don't have to do a lot to a piece of steak unless it's a really, cheap old piece of steak. But there's even things that you can do to, get that red meat in, keep it lean. But in the same breath, we have found over the course of time, people don't get in the fat nearly enough. And so I don't even really recommend people, if they want to do even a sirloin that's super, super lean, unless it's a specific scenario. So the red meat is simple. You can use it in any form. You can do burger patties, you can do a steak on the grill, and we will do that for you again. We will take you outside. We've had some crummy weather today, and that's kind of hard to grill, but we definitely wanted to talk about it. And something that's a big part of our meal plan is that red meat, having a nice steak. It's hard to beat.
Boom. That's it. Mic drop kind of stuff right there. See, I told you that's the reason why our stuff is. You're getting some likes. So appreciate you guys for doing that. So regardless of if you were able to see that today, what we're going to do is give each of you guys a print, an overview of our meal plan. Type the word meals, and we'll have the ability to eventually see.
It's the top foods. It's the top food. It's really good. If you guys type meals, we'll watch. This is YouTube, right?
Yes.
We'll watch you guys on YouTube. We'll make sure when we're done in the description, we'll give you the link where you can go and grab this.
Can they go into the description now?
It could be in the it will be in the description. It'll be in the description.
So go into the description right now, because when you take this off, when it's not live anymore, everything will go away. So go into the description while you're watching this video, because we're about to check out. And for everybody who's watching, this is the actual origin of the PeekABoo. If you want a copy of this book, just type PeekABoo and we'll give you this. And this tells you about the beginning of boxing. You see Archie Moore, you see me, you see some of my fighters, you see the origin story. It's a really great piece. And it's we did this in 2024, and it's a great piece. It's the magnetic force behind PeekABoo boxing. So that's what we bring on this channel. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because the shit that we put up is not bullshit. No, we put up that smoke every time. So make sure that you enjoy it by doing that. And like I said, make sure you get on that food, because you got the wizard back there and the skills. If you're ready to start boxing on another level, then make sure you continue to follow us for more. Covered. And we'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same bat station. And if you're on Instagram, follow us at Master Boxing.
That's right.
Coach Bradley signing out. Be blessed at Godspeed. All the new people I see you popping in.